had had a quick look at himself in the mirror, catching sight of the shadows under his eyes, but focusing instead on his irises, which were large and brown. He imagined they gave him an almost Mediterranean look. Still got it, though, he dreamed. He sighed restlessly and lazily concluded the black dot was nothing more than a squashed fly on the glass. He glanced into the mirror again to have a quick look at his son, Jamie, who was in the back seat behind him, texting. "You getting that haircut any time soon?" Jamie never replied, and Jack started humming tunelessly to himself before seeking company from the mild-mannered but insistent tones of Radio 4. It's a curious trait of teenagers, that they can be sitting only inches away and still make you feel utterly alone, he thought. He caught sight of the black dot again. It wasn't a bug because it had moved its position and now seemed larger. It was something in the sky. He peered ahead, shifting in his seat. At over 6 feet tall and with the build of a rugby player, albeit one past his sell-by date, Jack had never felt comfortable in the police car, and the leather upholstery was making him sweat all the more. The object grew in size, winging its way towards him at an alarming rate. It's only a bird, he concluded, and was relieved, though he felt a little foolish. Suddenly the huge crow swooped down and dive-bombed his car, its great black wing flicking across the windscreen with a thwack, causing him to swerve and narrowly miss a ditch. "What the fuck?" he shouted, as he ground to an abrupt halt. He wiped the sweat from his hands and muttered, more from habit than anything else, "Sorry." His wife didn't like him swearing in front of the kid, even though he knew from experience that his son had learned a few choice swear words himself, a teenager to the hilt. Jack was about to turn round to see if he was all right, but decided against it. He didn't need to. He could feel Jamie staring at him accusingly with his mother's eyes. Therein lay the other reason he chose not to turn round. The estrangement from both wife and son hurt like hell. He stayed still for a few moments, thinking about bad omens and impending doom. It seemed as if the crow had been flung at him from afar by the hand of God. Feeling his son's eyes boring into his back, Jack pulled himself together and attempted to start the engine up again. It complained loudly, refusing to budge. The last thing he wanted was to be stuck in the middle of nowhere, but at last it staggered into life. With his composure regained, he was soon back on the road. It was only some time later that he realized the radio signal had disappeared. He fiddled with the knobs, but nothing came, only a distant static and the hiss of white noise. Finally, he switched it off, and as he drove towards his destination, he began to settle into his usual mode of forecasting bad things for himself. For a long time he had been haunted by the idea that he'd been cursed with some kind of second sight, but as the years went on, he perceived that with so many doubts and fears fluctuating inside his psyche, it would only be a matter of time before at least some of them came true. A law of averages. Even when good things happened to him, he'd immediately expect the worst. "What's wrong?" Rachel had asked him. "Aren't you happy? You got promoted." "I know that," he began lamely. "It's just, well, it seems too good to be true, you know?" "No, I don't," she said tersely, and he watched his wife stomp off into the kitchen. He couldn't help it. How could he tell her that, yes, he was very happy to be promoted, but that he still had the nagging worry that any minute now a pile of horseshit might fall on his head? "Stop worrying," said Jamie, as if reading his thoughts. Jack smiled at him in the mirror, startled at first by Jamie's perceptiveness. "How did you know I was worried?" "You had that look again." Jack's smile became fixed, rueful. He was almost but not quite glad when he saw his partner waiting for him at the red telephone box. He pulled over.